Chosen one. Listen closely. Heaven itself leaned forward the moment you made that decision. The angels, who have witnessed empires rise and prophets fall silent, were shaken not because of what you lost, but because of what you refused to surrender. In the quiet place where no one applauded, you still chose obedience. That choice resounded louder in eternity than you realize. Picture it. The hosts of heaven saw the Red Sea part. They watched Jericho's walls crumble. They stood at the empty tomb as the stone rolled away. Yet when you fragile, weary, overlooked, said yes to God when everything in you wanted to give up, they were stunned. It was like the sound of lightning striking in clear daylight. Unexpected and undeniable. Your life felt ordinary to you. But from heaven's perspective, your decision was extraordinary. You stood where many turned back. You clung to faith when others mocked. You endured nights of silence when you wondered if God even heard your prayers. And still, you did not bow. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man, unseen by crowds, who carried the weight of family curses for years. Addiction, betrayal, poverty. Every pattern seemed unbreakable. But one night, when temptation came knocking again, he chose differently. He prayed instead of running. That moment, though hidden, shifted his bloodline. He didn't just save himself, he saved generations after him. You may not know it yet, but you carry that same kind of power in your choices. The Word of God declares in Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19, I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you may live. Do you see it? Heaven watches. Angels are witnesses. Your yes is more than survival. It is life for you and for those who will walk after you. Your obedience was a sword that cut through the plans of darkness, and heaven recorded it. Chosen one. Do not minimize what God has done through you. That single act of courage was not invisible. It was written in heaven's scrolls and sung in heaven's courts. And now the earth will begin to see what heaven already knows about you. If this word is stirring something inside of you, respond. Speak it out. Type boldly in the comments, I choose life. If you feel the weight of heaven confirming this, seal it with a prophetic act. Write 333 below. Let it be your declaration that you are aligned with the witness of heaven and earth. And if this resonates deeply, share it, like, subscribe, and let this message continue to reach others who are on the edge of giving up, because your choice already proved this. Heaven is not silent, and angels are still in awe. Do not underestimate this moment. Your decision was not just about surviving another day, it was about unlocking a future you cannot yet see, like a seed buried deep in the soil, unseen by human eyes. Your choice is already breaking open underground, preparing to rise as a harvest far greater than what was planted. Heaven celebrates not the seed you planted, but the forest that will one day stand in its place. Angels look upon you now, not with pity, but with respect. For you stood when everything tried to pull you down. And as you move forward, every step is guided by divine hands. Let your life itself become the testimony that silences doubt. Remember this, you are not forgotten. You are not forsaken. You are chosen. And heaven has already declared it so. You may not realize it yet, But the weight of your yes carried more than personal consequence. The moment you chose the narrow road, the heavens shifted. The angels felt the tremor, because they understood what you may have overlooked. One act of surrender carries eternal implications. Think of it this way. When a stone is thrown into a still pond, the water doesn't only move where the stone lands. Ripples spread outward, touching every corner. That is what your decision did. It rippled through time, through your bloodline, through battles unseen. The choice you made in silence disrupted entire blueprints of darkness. What the enemy expected to use against you suddenly became powerless. This is why the angels marveled. Not because you spoke loudly, not because you had resources or recognition, but because you bore the unseen weight and still chose light. Heaven knew what it cost you. The sleepless nights, the conversations you never told anyone about, the tears you buried beneath a smile. Yet in those moments, when compromise seemed easier, you stood still. There was a man, once his name almost forgotten, who worked in the fields of Israel. No crown, no wealth, no power. Yet when his nation turned toward idols, he chose otherwise. The world may not remember his name, but heaven remembers. And so it is with you. Earth may not applaud, but angels saw the weight of your yes, and that was enough to shake them. Imagine standing at a crossroads, one path broad and crowded, filled with noise and approval, another path narrow, lonely, overgrown with thorns. Most would choose the first without hesitation, but you stepped onto the second. The angels gasped, because that path doesn't just shape your destiny, it alters destinies connected to you. The scriptures themselves echo this truth. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, in their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Your choice, though it looked small, was a doorway into the Lord's establishment of your path. Angels knew the weight of it because they see the end from a higher vantage point. You, frail as dust, chose obedience, and heaven witnessed a crown being forged in fire. Let the image linger in your mind, a blacksmith's forge, the hammer striking metal, sparks flying, each blow painful, each strike costly. Yet what emerges from that fire is not scrap, but a weapon of brilliance. That is your yes. Each moment of endurance was a strike, each prayer a spark, each tear a shaping. Now heaven beholds what is forming, and angels are astonished at its glory. Perhaps you thought your choice insignificant. Perhaps you doubted that God even noticed. Yet the silence of heaven was not absence, it was awe. Like a conductor pausing at the height of a symphony, letting the silence emphasize the beauty of the next note. God allowed the angels to pause in wonder at what you birthed by faith. The weight of your yes is not measured in earthly applause. It is measured in eternity. It is measured in the chains that fell unseen, in the doors that will open generations from now, in the testimonies yet unborn. The angels saw it. Heaven marked it. And though you may still be walking with questions, know this: your choice has already carved a path where there was none before. There are times when heaven does not celebrate the doors you walk through, but the doors you refuse to enter. You may not see it, but every path you turned away from carried consequences beyond what your eyes could imagine. And when you said no to compromise, Angels leaned closer in awe. Think about the rejected paths in your own journey. Perhaps it was the temptation to chase approval. Perhaps it was the pressure to give up integrity for a quick reward. Maybe it was the whisper to stop waiting on God's timing and to settle for less. Each time you turned away, your strength was revealed. To people it looked like hesitation. To heaven, it looked like mastery. Let me tell you about a woman who lived in a small town, unnoticed by the world. She faced betrayal, deep loneliness, and the offer to numb her pain with things that promised quick relief. Yet she resisted. Her neighbors called her stubborn. Friends said she was wasting her life. But angels recorded those moments differently. They saw a chosen one refusing to bow to false comfort. And her no echoed like a victory shout. It is easy to think only your yes matters. But it is your no that often carries the loudest testimony. A soldier on the battlefield is not only known by the battles he fights, but by the traps he avoids. And you have avoided more than you know. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 6, verse 16. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. Endvan, when you rejected the easy path, you were not delaying your destiny, you were protecting it. The angels, who have seen nations fall because of one wrong step, marveled that you, with so little strength, chose rightly. Picture a lighthouse battered by waves. Ships far away may never know how many times that light prevented them from wrecking. The lighthouse receives no applause, but without it, destruction would multiply. That is what your resistance looks like to heaven. And now, here is where your voice matters. If this speaks to you, I want you to comment just 3 words. I refuse chains. Write it boldly. Because when you declare this, you are not just typing on a screen, you are making a prophetic statement. You are rejecting the snares of darkness and agreeing with heaven that your destiny will not be bound. This act may feel small, but it matters. It is a way of telling both heaven and earth, I know who I am. I know what I have refused. And I know where I am going. Your words carry power. And when you write them, it's like striking another blow against the prison walls the enemy tried to build around you. Chosen one, your rejected paths are not signs of delay. They are evidence of your discernment. And angels still talk about the moments you said no. For those were the moments that preserved your crown. And understand this clearly. When you type, I refuse chains, you are not only echoing your present decision, you are prophetically sealing your future. Chains represent addictions, cycles, false identities, and generational weights. By rejecting them with your words, you are declaring freedom over yourself and over those who will come after you. This is more than a phrase, it is a covenant. A testimony written not just in comments, but in the unseen realms where angels witness and darkness trembles. The angels in awe of resistance, this is a picture not often spoken of. Yet it is written into the rhythm of your life. They did not marvel because you were flawless. They marveled because, though flawed, you resisted. Resistance, in heaven's eyes, is not weakness, it is power clothed in humility. Consider how resistance feels in your own life. It is often silent. It doesn't parade itself or demand attention. Sometimes it looks like refusing to answer when insulted. Sometimes it looks like walking away when provoked. Sometimes it is simply the act of still believing when every voice screams at you to quit. Angels are not astonished by human strength. They are astonished when fragile flesh resists temptation that even nations have bowed to. There is a hidden paradox. Resistance looks like stillness, yet in the spirit it is thunder. Think of a mountain standing against the storm. From a distance, it appears unmoved, cold, silent, yet it breaks the wind, splits the clouds, and holds the line. That is you. Angels saw storms that should have swept you away, yet you remained. The scriptures reveal this mystery. In the letter of James, chapter 4, verse 7, it is written, "Submit yourselves, then, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." End of. Notice the order. Submission first. Resistance second. Angels were astonished, not just because you resisted, but because you resisted from a place of submission. This is what shook them. Many resist in pride and fall. You resisted by yielding, and therefore you stood. There was once a season when a young man endured mockery for his faith. His friends mocked his prayers. His family doubted his path. He could have hidden, but instead he quietly continued. Years later, when tragedy struck, those same friends came searching for his strength. They found it because he had resisted the erosion of compromise. His quiet stand became their refuge. Angels saw it long before anyone else did. Your resistance is not just about you. It becomes shelter for others, like a tree standing firm in the wind. Your roots hold even the soil around you together. Families, friends, even strangers benefit from the shade of your endurance. This is why heaven does not underestimate your decisions. Angels do not look at what you avoided, they look at what you preserved. Think also of fire. Resistance is like fire meeting water. The water hisses, rises in steam, and disappears. But the fire that endures remains purer, stronger, hotter. Each temptation, each trial you resisted, was water poured out against the flame of your faith. Yet your fire did not die. That is why the angels gasped. You were not extinguished. You were refined. You may wonder if your small acts of resistance truly matter. They do. Heaven is not recording only your victories. Heaven records your refusals. Every no whispered in the dark is written as clearly as a yes shouted in the light. Your resistance disrupted patterns. It carved cracks into the walls of oppression. It startled the enemy who expected you to collapse. Do not dismiss what heaven has seen. The angels know how fragile the human heart can be. And yet they watched you resist again and again. They marvel because your strength was not your own. It was borrowed from the one who endured the cross. And every time you resisted, you mirrored him. So understand this. Resistance is worship. It is not wasted effort. It is not unnoticed silence. It is a roar too deep for human ears, yet loud enough for heaven. And that roar has already shaken the corridors of darkness. Angels remain in awe, not because of what you escaped, but because of what you became while escaping. The schemes of hell were written long before you knew the fight you were in. Shadows had sketched out a script for your life, disappointment on repeat, betrayal at every turn, generational cycles playing like a broken record. But when you chose obedience, you tore that script in half. Hell's plan was interrupted, and angels marveled because they saw the moment everything shifted. Imagine a chessboard. Darkness thought the game was already won. Every move you made seemed predictable, leading toward checkmate. But then you made one decision, small, quiet, unseen, and the board changed completely. The enemy's strategy fell apart. What he meant for defeat became the setup for God's breakthrough. This is what obedience does. It interrupts. It cancels what was meant to continue. It breaks open what was meant to stay closed. Your yes was like striking a match in a cave full of dry wood. The fire spread so quickly that the darkness had no chance to contain it. You may still feel ordinary, but to heaven you are extraordinary, because you became the interruption. What your parents endured, you refused to repeat. What culture pressed on you, you refused to wear. What temptation whispered, you answered with silence. That is why angels gasped. They saw hell's story crumble, because you chose to live another one. The Word of God speaks clearly in the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 2, verse 9. What no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love Him. Hell cannot anticipate the surprise of obedience. It expected you to fold under pressure. Instead, you rose. It expected you to chase pleasure. Instead, you chose purity. It expected you to drown in despair. Instead, you clung to hope. Your refusal became a melody angels still sing about. Picture a stage. Hell had written a tragedy with your name in it. The curtain was rising. The actors were in place. The ending already scripted. But then you walked onto that stage and rewrote the story in real time. The tragedy became a testimony. The angels stood in the balcony of eternity and applauded because you became the plot twist no one saw coming. And now, as you hear these words, you stand at another kind of stage. What you carry is not just for yourself, it is a light meant to be seen. So, let me speak to you in symbols. When you like this message, it is like lighting a candle on that stage, adding flame to flame until the darkness loses its hold. When you share it, it is as if you opened a window, letting the song of freedom drift into other rooms where silence has ruled for too long. When you subscribe, it is like saying, I will keep walking back to this well, because you know the water you've tasted here refreshes your soul. No pressure, no demand, just an invitation to participate in the beauty of what God has already begun in you. Every click becomes less about an action on a screen and more about an act of agreement with heaven that the interruption you carry will spread. So walk boldly, knowing that angels already celebrate you. Hell's plan has collapsed. The story has changed. And now, your life sings a melody that no darkness can silence. The seal of distinction. This is what heaven placed upon you the moment you chose differently. Angels were not only witnesses, they became heralds. They saw the line drawn in the spirit. You no longer blend in with the crowd. You are marked. To be sealed is to be recognized. Think of a king's signet ring pressed into hot wax. The mark remains undeniable and unerasable. That is what happened in the unseen realm when you obeyed. Hell may have tried to disguise you in shame, but heaven's seal broke through the ashes. Angels knew it, and darkness trembled because it could no longer claim you. There are many who walk without distinction, chasing identity in the eyes of people. But your distinction was granted by heaven itself. not because of status, not because of perfection, but because of surrender. And this seal is not fragile. It is fire-etched into your story. The ancient words recorded in the book of Exodus, chapter 33, verse 16. Declare, what else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth? Moses asked that question when leading Israel, and God's answer was simple. His presence. That same presence now rests on you. This is why angels looked on in awe. You are not set apart by wealth or applause, but by the fragrance of heaven clinging to you. Picture a garden. Many flowers bloom, but there is one whose scent lingers long after the petals close. That is you. The fragrance of your life carries further than your eyes can see. People may not even know why they are drawn to you, why they feel peace when you enter the room, why conviction rises when you speak. It is the seal. Heaven's mark sets you apart in ways no earthly title can. And this seal is not silent. It speaks to battles you'll never fight. It warns darkness before you arrive. It testifies of who you belong to, even when your voice trembles. That's why resistance in your life carried such weight, because your no was not just personal. It was royal. There was once a young woman who faced years of ridicule for her faith. Teachers mocked her. Peers excluded her. Opportunities were denied her. Yet she carried herself differently. What they could not see was the seal of heaven on her. Years later, those same people returned, seeking her wisdom, drawn by a light they never understood before. Her distinction could not be hidden. You may feel invisible now, but angels know you are marked. You may think your obedience went unnoticed, but the seal has already shifted the atmosphere. Even the wilderness recognizes when a chosen one walks through it. Now, let your heart respond. If you sense this word confirming what heaven already knows about you, then mark it in the comments. Write this number, 444. Why 444? Because it speaks of stability, of being firmly established, of foundations that cannot be shaken. It is the prophetic sign that what God has sealed, no man can erase. When you type it, you are not just repeating digits, you are agreeing with heaven's testimony that you are distinct, sealed, and unshakable, chosen one. The angels still marvel at the seal you carry. The world may overlook it, but the unseen realm cannot ignore it. And when you step forward, you do not move as ordinary, you move as one marked forever by the presence of God. The wilderness witness, this is where your story deepens. To human eyes, it looked like isolation, emptiness, delay. Yet in heaven's eyes, the wilderness was the place where your decisions carried eternal weight. The angels did not simply watch you in the moments of celebration. They leaned in during the seasons when you walked alone. The wilderness has always been the proving ground of chosen ones. Israel wandered 40 years there, and every step revealed the posture of their hearts. Jesus himself was led into the wilderness, where temptation struck with full force, and yet he resisted with words of truth. You, too, have been led into seasons that felt barren, and though your soul longed for relief, you kept choosing faith. That was when the angels saw the brilliance of your calling. Loneliness in the wilderness is deceptive. It whispers, "You are forgotten. You are wasting time." But the truth is different. The wilderness is not punishment, it is preparation. It is the place where faith is stripped of performance and tested in silence. Your choices there became louder in heaven than shouts in a crowded room. Think of the desert sand. It looks lifeless, barren, endless. Yet beneath the surface, seeds wait, hidden, dormant, enduring heat and silence. At the appointed time, even a drop of rain awakens an explosion of color. That is your wilderness. Angels saw your choices as those seeds, invisible for a time, but destined to break forth in beauty. Scripture reminds us through the writings of Hosea, chapter 2, verse 14, "Therefore I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her." 1. Notice this. The wilderness is not abandonment, it is invitation. It is the place where God whispers more clearly because distractions are gone. You may have felt overlooked, but heaven saw you being drawn closer. Angels marveled, not because you were strong, but because you chose to listen when the silence pressed hard against your soul. There was once a man who lost everything: work, friends, reputation. He walked through years of obscurity, questioning if his prayers had meaning. Yet he continued to wake each day and seek God in whispers. When breakthrough finally came, it was not sudden. It was the unveiling of choices made in secret. The angels had been watching all along, astonished at how wilderness faith could outshine public praise. Your wilderness has a witness. Every step, every tear, every prayer carried more weight than you imagine. The angels saw when you resisted bitterness. They saw when you forgave, even though no one was there to applaud. They saw when you pressed forward, though your strength felt drained. And heaven recorded those moments as victories. The wilderness often feels like silence, but in truth, it is a stage. Heaven gathers to watch, not the noise of a crowd, but the purity of a heart that clings when everything else has been stripped away. You stood there, trembling, questioning, weary, and still you chose to believe. That is what shook the angels. So do not despise your wilderness. It has revealed your true distinction. It has silenced the enemy's accusation that you follow God only for blessing. It has testified that even in lack, you will not bow. And in that testimony, heaven has already declared, you are ready for what comes next. Silent sacrifices remembered. This is the part of your story that even you have forgotten. Yet heaven has not. The angels remember what you dismissed as ordinary. They remember the prayers you whispered half asleep. They remember the gifts you gave when your own hands were empty. They remember the choices you made when no audience watched. Sacrifice does not always look like fire on an altar. Sometimes it looks like turning off the voice of bitterness. Sometimes it looks like holding back a word of retaliation. Sometimes it looks like serving someone who will never thank you. To the world, these moments vanish quickly, but in heaven, they are etched in permanent ink. The Word of God speaks through the book of Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 10. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. And silent sacrifices are thunder in the spirit. They echo louder than sermons. They shake stronger than applause, because in those moments, you did not perform for men, you offered yourself to God. And that purity, that hidden surrender, is what caused the angels to marvel. Think of a candle burning in the middle of an empty room. No one sees it. No one notices its steady flame. Yet it consumes itself little by little to bring light. That is what your hidden sacrifices have looked like to heaven. The angels have seen every drop of wax, every moment you gave yourself away, and they have whispered, "This one belongs to God." There was once a young mother who carried heavy burdens. Few knew the nights she went without food so her children could eat. Fewer still knew the hours she spent in prayer while they slept, asking God to keep them safe. Her sacrifices were invisible to the world, but not to heaven. Angels were present at her bedside, marking her faithfulness. Years later, her children flourished, carrying the blessing of what she had given in secret. Your story carries the same weight. You may think your giving has gone unnoticed. You may feel your prayers have evaporated into silence. Yet the angels record every one of them. They stand astonished that in your weariness, you still poured out what little strength you had. Silent sacrifices also build altars unseen. Abraham built altars of stone, visible for all to see. But you have built altars with your choices, stones laid in faith, cemented with tears, hidden in the wilderness of your journey. And heaven has received everyone. Sometimes, your greatest worship has been the moments you stayed when you wanted to leave. Sometimes, your loudest song has been the tears that never left your eyes. Sometimes, your most powerful offering has been the forgiveness you extended without recognition. All of it is remembered, so let your heart be at rest. Nothing has been wasted. The angels marvel not because you gained much, but because you gave much in secret. And God Himself has promised that what was done in silence will one day be shouted from eternity's halls. Silent sacrifices are never forgotten. They are stored like treasures, hidden yet unshakable, waiting for the moment. They will be revealed. And when that moment comes, both heaven and earth will know. Your hidden surrender was thunder in disguise. Heavenly scrolls record it. This is a truth rarely spoken, yet it flows through eternity. Nothing you have done in surrender has vanished into silence. Angels carry records. They write what men ignore. Every tear that slid down your face, every whispered, "Lord, help me," every choice that shifted you closer to obedience, all of it has been written. The scriptures remind us in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 16, "Those who feared the Lord spoke with each other, and the Lord listened and heard. A scroll of remembrance was written before Him for those who honored His name." Your life is not random ink spilled in chaos. It is a manuscript penned with purpose. The angels hold scrolls, and they have written your choices into heaven's library. You may forget the night you refused despair, but heaven remembers. You may not recall the prayer you prayed years ago, but heaven remembers. You may think your obedience was small, but angels wrote it as thunder across eternity. Imagine walking into a vast hall where scrolls stretch higher than your eyes can see. Each one is inscribed with the names of those who lived faithfully. Each page carries moments no one else witnessed. That hall is real, and your life is written there, not because of perfection, but because of persistence. There was once a man who labored in obscurity. For decades he worked, prayed, served, and thought little of himself. No books bore his name. No crowds gathered to hear his voice. Yet heaven wrote his story. Angels recorded every unseen offering. And when his life ended, the unseen became thunderous. For his children, and their children after, walked in blessings born of his faith. This is why angels marveled. They are not shocked by wealth or fame. They are moved by fidelity. They saw how you endured. They wrote how you resisted. They inked the nights you thought were wasted. Your name is not fading into dust. It is inscribed into heaven's testimony. Think of your life like a song written note by note. Some notes sound sweet, others sharp, others silent. But when heaven strings them together, a melody emerges that no darkness can erase. The angels write because your life matters that much. And now, I invite you to echo this truth. If you believe your name and your choices are already written in heaven's scrolls, comment these words: Heaven remembers me. This is more than a phrase. It is a declaration that you refuse to live as forgotten. It is a way of saying, my story is preserved. My obedience is seen. My name is written where no hand can erase it. When you type it, you align yourself with what angels already know, that you are remembered eternally. So stand in that assurance. You are not drifting through history unnoticed. Your life is not dust in the wind. It is written, line upon line, choice upon choice, in scrolls that will be opened when eternity's light reveals the truth of who you are. And remember this: when you type, Heaven remembers me, you are not only acknowledging the records of angels, you are testifying against every lie that whispered you were forgotten. Those 3 words break agreement with shame and with silence. They declare that even when people overlook you, God does not. They seal the truth that your life is carved into eternity's scrolls, unshakable and irreversible. And as you write them, you join a chorus already resounding in heaven, the testimony of those who stood, endured, and were never erased. You shifted bloodlines. That is the magnitude of your choice. What once traveled, unchecked through generations, came to a sudden halt the moment you stood in obedience. Angels marveled, because they saw patterns broken, curses overturned, and futures rewritten. What others endured, you refuse to carry forward. Think of a river flowing endlessly, carving the same path through the land. For centuries, it floods the same valleys, destroys the same villages. But then, one stone falls in just the right place, and the water is diverted. A new channel forms. That stone was your obedience. The river of pain was interrupted, and a new current of blessing began to flow. Generational cycles may have whispered, "This is who you are. This is all you'll ever be." Yet your no became a hammer against that lie. You chose differently. And in that choice, the angels witnessed the blueprint of hell collapse. The Word of God reminds us in the book of Romans, chapter 5, verse 19. Through the disobedience of one man, many were made sinners. Through the obedience of one man, many will be made righteous. Your decision did not just rescue you, it opened doors for many. The angels gasped because they saw generations you cannot yet see. Children, grandchildren, families, even strangers you have never met will walk in freedom because you chose differently. Picture a family tree. Some branches are twisted, scarred by storms, broken under weight. Yet suddenly, from one branch, new growth appears straight, green, alive. That new growth is you. You are not an extension of what was broken. You are the beginning of what will be whole. Or picture a relay race. For years, The baton has been passed. Fear, anger, addiction, shame. Every runner before you dropped the same weight into your hand. But when it reached you, you stopped. Instead of running that same circle, you dropped the baton of bondage and picked up the torch of light. That act alone caused heaven to erupt in awe. This is why your yes mattered. Angels saw it not only as survival, but as transformation. Your choice shifted history. The enemy's claim over your bloodline was revoked. What once was written as a curse has now been overwritten with blessing. And now I speak to your heart. When you like this message, see it not as a simple tap, but as planting a flag in the soil of your family line. It says, here, something new begins. When you share it, imagine yourself as a messenger carrying the torch you picked up. You are handing light to someone else who has only known darkness. Your share is a ripple that could rewrite another story. When you subscribe, see it as choosing to stay connected to a well of truth. You are saying, I refuse to return to the dry places. I will keep drinking from the flow that strengthens me. No pressure, no demand, only invitation. Just as your obedience was never forced. These actions are not forced. They are symbols, echoes of the transformation already alive in you. They are ways to agree with what heaven already witnessed. Your bloodline has shifted. Your story has changed. And your future is radiant with hope. Chosen one. The angels still speak of that moment. You became the stone that redirected the river. You became the green branch on a broken tree. You became the runner who refused the baton of chains. And because of you, generations yet unborn will know freedom. Darkness lost jurisdiction. That is the testimony of your choice. For too long, the enemy claimed territory in your life as though it belonged to him. He whispered ownership over your mind, over your family, over your destiny. But the moment you obeyed, the moment you resisted his schemes, heaven's gavel struck. The verdict was clear, jurisdiction revoked. The angels marveled because they saw the legal shift. You may have felt nothing more than relief or peace in that moment. But in the courts of heaven, papers were signed. The rights the enemy once held over you were cancelled. Chains that claimed authority snapped. And light stepped into places that had been locked for years. The scriptures echo this in the letter to the Colossians. Chapter 1, verse 13. For he has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves. Your story is no longer one of captivity. You are not a tenant under the rule of shadows. You are a citizen of light. This transfer was not symbolic, it was actual. Angels marveled because they saw entire territories shift ownership the moment you said yes to God. Imagine a land long overrun by an invader. The people live in fear. The streets echo with oppression, and hopelessness spreads like smoke. Then one day, the rightful king returns. His banner rises above the city walls, and the invaders scatter. That is what happened in your spirit. Darkness fled because light returned to claim what was always his. Or think of a prison cell. The enemy held the keys, pacing outside your door. But the cross broke those keys, and obedience unlocked the chains. You walked free. Angels stood as witnesses, astonished that the one who once sat in shadows now stood radiant in liberty. There was once a man who battled addiction for years. To him, it felt like a private war with no end. But one night, after crying out for help. He chose surrender. The next day looked ordinary, yet in the unseen realm, the jurisdiction shifted. Darkness no longer owned him. Angels recorded the freedom that entered his bloodline, and generations after him walked in the blessing of his breakthrough. That is your testimony too. You may not see the fullness yet, but the authority of darkness is broken. Its jurisdiction has ended. Every accusation it tries to speak now falls powerless, because the Judge of heaven has declared you free. Picture a deed to a house. For years, the wrong name was on the paper. The enemy claimed ownership, but with one signature, everything changed. The deed was transferred back to its rightful owner. That's what happened when you obeyed. The ownership of your life was restored. This is why the angels are in awe. They know what it means for darkness to lose ground. They have seen nations fall under its weight. And they have also seen what happens when one person chooses to surrender. That single choice redraws maps in the spirit, and the enemy's grip unravels. Do not underestimate it. The enemy's jurisdiction is gone. His threats are empty. His claims are lies. And heaven's record is final. You belong to the kingdom of light. The angels remember that day, and they still speak of it, because one choice ended a rule of darkness that thought it would last forever. The crown prepared in secret. This is the mystery angels beheld as they watched your choices unfold. You did not see it, but every hidden yes was weaving gold. Every tear, every surrender, every moment you resisted, compromise became a jewel set into the band of a crown designed only for you. The world crowns achievement. Heaven crowns obedience. And so, while others looked past you, the angels were astonished because they saw a crown taking shape where no one expected glory. The Word of God speaks in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. Your crown was not forged in moments of applause. It was forged in fire. It was shaped in nights of loneliness. It was polished by prayers that felt unanswered. Yet all the while, angels were watching as heaven's jeweler worked. Imagine a craftsman bent over his workbench, hammering gold, setting stones, shaping detail no one else can see. Hours pass, days pass, years pass. To anyone else, it looks like wasted time, but when the work is finished, what emerges is breathtaking. That is your life. Every hidden act became another stroke of the jeweler's hand, another gem in the crown. There was once a woman whose faith cost her everything: friends, security, opportunities. She lived overlooked, her sacrifices unnoticed, yet angels whispered of her crown. When her journey ended, what seemed like loss became brilliance, for heaven revealed what she had carried all along, a crown prepared in secret. And so it is with you. Do not despise the quiet seasons. Do not think the fire was wasted. Each trial added weight to your crown, and each surrender added beauty. Heaven remembers. Angels marvel. The crown is already waiting. Now I invite you into a prophetic act. If your spirit bears witness that a crown has been prepared for you, even if unseen in this moment, then declare it with faith. Write this number, 777. Why 777? because it speaks of divine perfection, completion, and holiness. It is a declaration that the crown you carry is not fragile, it is eternal. When you type it, you are joining your voice with heaven's witness, agreeing that what was hidden is already finished in God's eyes. And let me explain this clearly. Typing 777 is not about numbers on a screen. It is about sealing your agreement with heaven's process. It is a way of saying, I believe the fire did not destroy me, it refined me. I believe the silence was not wasted, it was sacred. I believe the crown is real, even if unseen. And as you make that declaration, angels, who once watched in awe, now nod in agreement. Because they know the truth. The crown has already been prepared, and it bears your name. Understand this. Chosen one, the crown was not prepared because you were perfect, but because you were faithful. Angels are not impressed by flawlessness, they are astonished by perseverance. Every stumble you rose from, every weakness you surrendered, became another gem set into your crown. When you type 777, you are declaring more than agreement. You are proclaiming, my trials were not wasted. My pain produced glory. Mihil's sacrifices shaped eternal beauty. It is both testimony and prophecy, testimony of what you endured, prophecy of what you will wear. And as you declare it, heaven itself affirms your identity, crowned, chosen, sealed. You chose obedience over applause, and this is what stunned the angels most of all. The world chases recognition, the applause of crowds, the nod of approval from fleeting voices. Yet you turned from that path. You refused to bow to the stage of men because you desired the approval of heaven. That single decision carried more weight than a lifetime of empty praise. Obedience, by its nature, is costly. It requires surrender when pride demands reward. It asks for silence when you long to be heard. It pushes you into hidden places when everything inside you craves to be seen. The angels marveled because they know how much power the desire for applause has over the human heart, and they saw you overcome it. Consider how obedience changes a story. Saul, Israel's first king, had a throne, an army, and a crown. But he lost it all because he chose applause over obedience. David, on the other hand, began in obscurity, tending sheep, forgotten even by his family. Yet he chose obedience when no one watched. Heaven marked him, and his name endured through eternity. Scripture makes this truth clear in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 23. Anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them. None. Your obedience, then, is not about proving worth, it is about proving love. You chose God, even when applause would have been easier. And heaven answered by drawing nearer. Angels marveled because they witnessed intimacy formed in silence, devotion tested in obscurity, and love revealed without reward. Imagine a runner in a stadium. The crowd is roaring, voices echoing, banners waving. Yet the runner blocks out the noise, focusing only on the voice of the coach at the finish line. That is obedience over applause. You ran past the noise of the crowd because your eyes were fixed on a greater prize. Or picture a musician playing a song. He could play to please the crowd, changing notes to satisfy their whims. Instead, He plays faithfully to the composer's score. Even when the crowd is restless, that is what you have done. You stayed true to the composer of your soul. And angels marveled at your courage. There was once a woman who gave up wealth and opportunity to serve in obscurity. People thought she wasted her life. But years later, the fruit of her obedience fed thousands. She never saw the stage, but heaven saw her faith. Her life became a song. Angels still sing. This is why your choice mattered so deeply. Applause fades. Obédience endure. Applause feeds the ego. Obedience feeds the soul. Applause elevates you for a moment. Obedience crowns you for eternity. The angels know this, for they have watched humanity fall again and again to the lure of applause. Yet you, fragile and weary, chose differently. That is why they stood in awe. So, remember, obedience over applause is not weakness. It is strength of the highest kind. It is the quiet roar that silences the demands of men and amplifies the voice of God. And as you continue walking this path, heaven itself walks with you, testifying that your life has chosen the eternal over the temporary, the unseen over the seen, the holy over the hollow. And let this be sealed in you. Applause fades like an echo in the wind, but obedience shines like an eternal flame, guiding angels and generations after you. God's timing unlocked. This is the mystery. The angels watched unfold the day you chose to obey. For years, it seemed like doors stayed shut, prayers unanswered, dreams delayed. But heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was aligning moments, arranging seasons, and waiting for your heart to align with His timing. Timing in the kingdom is never random. It is not a clock on the wall, it is a symphony. Every note must arrive at the right moment for the music to carry beauty. If one note arrives too soon or too late, the harmony collapses. Your obedience brought you into rhythm with heaven's song. And angels marveled because they heard the harmony begin to play. The scriptures remind us in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. This truth often feels heavy in waiting seasons. You wondered if God had forgotten you, if the delay meant denial. Yet heaven was not withholding, it was preparing. Your yes unlocked the moment when the season shifted. Angels gasped because they saw doors swing wide that had been shut for generations. Picture a farmer standing in a barren field. Months pass, and the soil looks unchanged. He waters. He waits. He prays for rain. To others, it looks like wasted time, but at the right season, the first green shoot pushes through the earth, and suddenly the field bursts with life. That is God's timing. It may feel late to you, but it is always perfect. Or think of a lock and key. The door will not open, no matter how hard you push, because the key has not yet been turned. But the moment the right key aligns with the lock, the mechanism releases with ease. Your obedience was the key that aligned with heaven's timing. Angels marveled because what once resisted you suddenly gave way. There was once a man who carried a dream for decades. People laughed at him. Time passed, and even he doubted it would come to life. But the day he surrendered his plan for God's, the timing shifted. What seemed impossible opened effortlessly. Heaven's witnesses knew the secret all along. It was never about delay, but about alignment. Your story carries that same truth. You thought you were waiting on heaven, but heaven was waiting on you. The angels saw the moment your heart aligned with God's will, and instantly, seasons changed. Do not despise waiting seasons, for they are not wasted. They are the ground where patience grows, the forge where faith is tempered, the rhythm where your heart learns heaven's song. Without them, you would not be ready to carry what now opens before you. God's timing is precise, not early, not late, exactly on time. Angels marvel because they see the tapestry, the threads you cannot yet see woven together into a picture far greater than you imagined. So let peace settle in your spirit. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. The moment you obeyed, the timing unlocked. And now, the angels stand as witnesses to the unfolding of promises once delayed, now perfectly delivered. And so, trust this, the very silence you once resented was heaven's clock ticking toward the perfect hour. The angels saw it, and now you will see it too. Every delay was protection. Every pause was preparation. And every locked door was waiting for your hand at the right moment to turn the key. All creation waits for you. This is not poetic exaggeration, but a reality angels have always known. Your life, your choices, your obedience have awakened a ripple felt not only in heaven and hell, but in creation itself. The earth groans, the skies listen, the seasons shift, awaiting the revealing of those who carry God's light. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 19, declare, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." When you chose obedience, you did more than rescue yourself. You aligned with a cosmic story. Angels marveled, not because they were surprised that God was faithful, but because they saw creation breathe in relief. Every yes you whispered was like rain falling on parched ground. Imagine a barren field, dry and lifeless. For years, nothing grows. But then, one seed is planted, rain comes, the soil shifts, and suddenly new life bursts forth. That is what your obedience has done. It has turned deserts into gardens. Or picture a symphony in which one instrument had fallen silent. The music felt incomplete, hollow. But when you lifted your voice of obedience, the missing sound returned, and the symphony swelled in fullness again. That is why creation waits for you. It knows the music is incomplete without your note. Your presence carries weight beyond your imagination. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere changes, not because of your strength, but because heaven's seal rests on you. The angels saw it. Creation feels it. Even darkness recognizes it. Now, hear this with your heart. If this word stirs something deep within you, respond in symbols. Not because you are forced, but because you want to join in heaven's testimony. When you like this message, it is as if you are planting another seed in that barren field. Achzit might seem small, but together they become a harvest of hope for others still waiting in their wilderness. When you share it, it is like opening a window in a house long shut, letting fresh air and light sweep into spaces where despair has lingered. Your act of sharing becomes a breeze of renewal for someone else's story. When you write in the comments, see it not as typing words, but as carving your name into the bark of a tree that will stand for generations. It is a declaration. I am part of this story, and I will not be silent. When you subscribe, It is like returning again and again to a river that never runs dry. You are saying, "This is water for my soul, and I choose to keep drinking from it." It is an act of alignment with the flow of heaven's truth. None of this is demanded of you. It is invitation. Just as your obedience was a choice born of love, so too are these symbolic acts. They are ways of participating, of saying, with your heart, "I want to keep the light burning, the music playing, the harvest growing." The angels already marveled at your yes. Now creation joins in the chorus. And when you align your small actions with heaven's story, you are adding another brushstroke to the canvas God has been painting since the beginning. It is beautiful, voluntary, and eternal. And never forget, even the smallest act born of love carries eternal weight. What you plant today in faith, heaven multiplies tomorrow in glory. Angels saw it, creation felt it, and now eternity remembers it. Glory unveiled, step by step. This is the mystery of how heaven works. Angels saw the crown being prepared, the scrolls written, the seal of distinction placed, but now they watch as what was hidden begins to shine. The unveiling is not sudden. It is steady, step by step. Glory is revealed, and creation bears witness alongside the angels. It is easy to imagine glory as a flash of lightning, one sudden burst that changes everything. Yet in truth, glory is more like dawn. The night holds its grip. The sky still feels heavy. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, light spreads. First, a sliver of brightness on the horizon, then hues of gold, then the full sun rising. That is how heaven unveils what it has placed within you. The scriptures remind us in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 18, "We all, with unveiled faces, contemplate the Lord's glory, being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." Your life is not being revealed all at once. The angels marvel because they see the layers of transformation unfolding like the pages of a book. What was once hidden in obscurity is now being brought into light. And each step forward is not only your unveiling but his. The world does not just see you, they see him reflected in you. Think of a sculptor working with marble. At first, the stone looks rough, shapeless, ordinary, but day by day, chip by chip, the figure emerges. What once looked like meaningless fragments falling to the ground are actually signs that glory is being revealed. Your struggles, your pruning, your losses, they were not evidence of waste, but of shaping. The angels watched every strike of the chisel and saw beauty emerging where once there was only stone, or picture a tapestry. From the underside, it looks chaotic, threads crossing in confusion, colors mismatched. Yet from above, a masterpiece unfolds. Each stitch is purposeful, each thread aligned. Heaven has always seen the top side of your tapestry, while you wrestled with the underside. The unveiling is the moment you begin to glimpse what heaven has known all along. There was once a man who endured long years of hidden labor, 2 neighbors. He looked ordinary, his life unremarkable. But when the season came for unveiling, everything made sense. What he thought were wasted years were actually preparation. His story shines now, not because of one grand event, but because step by step, God unveiled what had been hidden. This is what is happening in you. The unveiling is not loud, but it is unstoppable. Angels marvel because they see in you the reflection of the one they worship. They see the glory of endurance, of faith, of hidden obedience, shining brighter with each step. So do not despise the slow pace. Do not grow weary in the unveiling. Glory is not given in a moment to be spent like currency. It is revealed over time, deepening, maturing, expanding until it fills every corner of your life. Angels stand witness even now. They once gasped at your hidden yes. Now they watch as that hidden yes becomes a visible light. Glory unveiled, step by step, the story of heaven written into the journey of your life. And so remember, the unveiling of glory is not rushed. Each step carries eternal weight. What heaven began in secret now blooms in sight. And the angels stand in awe of every unfolding layer of light. The final coronation moment. This is what angels have long awaited. From the day you whispered your first yes, they began watching the story unfold, anticipating the hour when heaven would place its crown upon your head. Not because of perfection, but because of perseverance. Not because you never fell, but because every time you fell, you rose again. Coronation is not about reward alone. It is about recognition. It is the moment when what was hidden is publicly declared. Angels saw the crown forged in secret, polished in pain, refined in fire. Now they see it lifted high, no longer concealed, but revealed for all creation to witness. The Word of God proclaims in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 10, "Be faithful, even to the point of death, and I will give you life as your victor's crown." This is what makes the angels marvel, that you, fragile dust, carried such unwavering resolve. They have seen kings crowned by men, but your coronation comes from the King of Kings. They have seen gold crowns that tarnish, but yours is woven with eternity. Picture a throne room, vast and radiant, light cascading like rivers, voices of countless witnesses rising in harmony. You enter not as one unnoticed, but as one chosen. The angels rise in reverence, not because of who you made yourself to be, but because of who you allowed God to make you. The crown is placed, and eternity acknowledges what heaven always knew: you are chosen. Think of a long race. The crowd only sees the finish line, but heaven saw every mile you ran in silence, every stumble, every tear, every refusal to quit. Coronation is not simply about the finish. It is the celebration of every step that brought you there. Or imagine a garden in full bloom. For years, seeds lay buried. Roots grew unseen. Storms came and went. But now the flowers burst open in radiant color. That is coronation, the unveiling of what was always alive within you. There was once a woman who lived her entire life in quiet faith. She was never known by nations, never crowned by men. Yet when her journey ended, angels lined eternity's streets with songs. A crown awaited her, woven from her years of hidden obedience, and her coronation was no less glorious than the greatest saints. This is the hope you now carry. Angels do not merely remember your struggles, they rejoice in your victory. Your crown is not a distant dream, it is a reality waiting to be revealed. Do not think coronation is far away. It begins even now. Every time you choose obedience, the crown gleams brighter. Every time you resist darkness, another jewel is set in place. Every time you surrender, The coronation moment draws nearer. The angels watch with anticipation, because they know the story ends, not in defeat but in glory. They saw your hidden choices. They witnessed your wilderness. They recorded your sacrifices. And now they stand ready for the final moment when heaven itself declares, "This one has overcome. This one is crowned. This one belongs forever." And let this truth steady your heart. Coronation is not simply a future event, but a present identity. You are already walking crowned. Even if unseen by human eyes, the angels behold it. Creation feels it, and the enemy fears it. Every step you take now is not toward emptiness, but toward fulfillment. What heaven prepared in secret is already shining upon you. And one day, the crown will be revealed before all eternity. Chosen one, you have walked through every word, step by step, and heaven has witnessed your journey even here. Angels leaned in as these truths were spoken, not because they needed reminding, but because they know you did. This entire unfolding was not coincidence. It was heaven's way of saying, "You are remembered. You are sealed. You are crowned." But let me speak plainly. This moment does not end here. What you have received can continue to breathe life into others if you choose to release it. And so, I invite you not with pressure, but with beauty to respond in ways that carry the fragrance of eternity. When you like this message, it is like striking a bell in a cathedral. The sound resonates beyond the walls, echoing hope to those who thought silence had the final word. When you share, it is like carrying a torch into another village, still walking in darkness. One spark can light many lamps, and your single act may become the flame that saves another's night. When you comment, do not see it as typing letters. It is more like planting your footprint in wet cement. Your declaration becomes part of the foundation, testifying, "I was here. I received. I believe." And when you subscribe, it is like returning to a river that never dries. Each return brings fresh water. Each visit restores your strength. And each connection ties you closer to the chorus of chosen ones walking this same path. This is not obligation. It is invitation. Your journey has already shifted heaven and silenced hell. Now, your actions can ripple outward, turning your testimony into light for another soul still waiting to awaken. So step into it freely, beautifully, and with joy, because heaven already sings your name.